Hi there, welcome back to 52 Weeks of Vlogging. It's Saturday, August, I don't know, I think 17th. Hang on. Yes, August 17th. And I have a migraine, so this is going to be short and hopefully not requiring much editing because I just wanted to chat about something which the Kidlet has been obsessed with, Kidlet number 2, who is 6, and that is death. Kidlet number 2 is obsessed with death. It's a little weird. It's keeping him up at night, which is also a little concerning. Is concerning even a word? I don't know. And this is suddenly requiring more editing than I want to do, so I'm just going to keep talking. Basically, I'm not sure where this has come from. A few years ago, his great-grandfather passed away, and he talked a little bit about death back then. And lately, we've maybe listened to some music on the radio or put in a CD, and he's gone, who's this singing? What are they singing these days? And I've said, well, they can't sing anymore, they're dead. And I don't know, maybe it's coming from that. Maybe it's coming from the whole West Nile thing because it's still August and summertime and mosquitoes, and West Nile is a thing where we live. Although West Nile doesn't usually kill people, so I don't really know why he would be worried about it, except that he's mentioned it in the context of West Nile. So somehow, somewhere, somebody read a newspaper article maybe and mentioned it. But anyway, he's really worried about death. He keeps asking how old I'm going to be, or how old the Hubbles is going to be, or how old he's going to be. And it's like, dude, by the time you're old, they'll probably have figured out a way to make you live forever. And then he wants to know how soon they'll figure out a way to make people live forever because he wants it to be working by the time I'm old. So lately we've been having a lot of discussions about death and life and the circle of life and ashes to ashes and dust to dust and all of that stuff. And I've really been trying to kind of engender in him the idea that life is for living and not worrying, and that death is what it is, and we don't know what it is, except that we know that we stop existing physically in the form of people and start existing physically in the form of dirt with the help of bugs and maggots. That might be a little gross for a 6-year-old, and I didn't really quite put it that way, but you know, the basic idea, the basic science of what happens to dead things. And I really want him to understand that there is a cycle there, that everything living eventually turns back into earth, and then that allows new living things to grow from that earth, so that it does go around, and it's not just all useless and pointless and hopeless. Because basically that's what I believe about death. I don't know what happens when we die. I don't necessarily believe that we have a soul that lives on, and I don't necessarily believe that we don't have a soul that lives on. I'm kind of happy in the camp that says, dude, until I die and find out, I'm kind of happy and good with the not knowing. I just want to live a good, productive life now, here, where I am, and leave things behind better than when I arrived here. And if I can do that, then that's all I really want to accomplish. And I worry about the whole living forever thing. I mean, for one thing, the planet can't sustain everybody living forever, and yet people seem to want to kind of make that happen, which really just strikes me as really, really poor planning. I mean, what are we going to do when everybody's able to live forever? Start sterilizing people and not allowing them to have any more babies? Because if everybody lives forever and everybody has babies, and then those babies live forever and have babies that live forever and have babies, eventually the planet is just going to be swarming with babies and not anything else, including food that the babies can eat, because just too many babies. And I have similar questions around ideas like colonizing Mars or sending people to live on the moon. I mean, Mars and the moon are not places that we can just live. We have to create environments within those areas in which humans can live. And those are going to be very small, very limited spaces. And how are we going to deal with that exactly? Are we going to send people to live there just for a few months at a time and then bring them back, which is going to involve a lot of back and forthing? And is that even feasible because it just takes a long time to get to Mars? Or are we going to send them to live there permanently, in which case it's a finite space? And then we get into really interesting questions like, how do we deal with population control? Because you can't just have everybody have 6 or 7 babies in a very small biosphere on Mars. The Earth is still big enough and there are still few enough of us that we still tend to think of the Earth as having relatively infinite resources. Not in the sense that it's literally infinite, but in the sense that we don't have to worry about running out of anything, certainly in the lifetime of anybody living right now. At least that's the way we behave. And this allows us a lot of wonderful freedoms, like the freedom to say that putting any kind of a limit on the number of children a person can have is a really inhumane idea and we shouldn't do it. But if we really do want to do something like colonize Mars, we have to think about things. We have to really think hard about things. Because I do think it's a really inhumane thing to tell people they can only have a certain number of children, or that they can't have children, or that only certain people are allowed to have children because they'll have the best, most healthy, most able to survive children. But at the same time, if we're living in an extremely, extremely limited environment, then what does that mean for us? These are all important questions that I think humanity is going to have to start asking and start facing, and they all stemmed out of conversations with the Kidlet about death. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on death? What are your thoughts on life? What are your thoughts on the relevance of all of that as it might apply if we decide to, say, colonize Mars in the next 150 years or so? I look forward to discussing this with you in the comments. And in the meantime, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.